President Donald Trump has signed a law extending AGOA until the end of December this year. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer says his office will work with Congress to update the program to provide more market access for U.S. businesses and to align with Trump's America First trade policy. Last month, the Senate passed a bill extending AGOA for another year. The agreement officially expired at the end of September 2025 amid tensions between South Africa and the U.S. The Department of Trade and Industry and Competition welcomed the extension, saying it will provide certainty and predictability for African and American businesses that rely on the program. All right, to take an in-depth look at the one-year AGOA extension, we're joined now by Isaac Khambule. He's a professor of political economy at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. Despite the tensions between South Africa, Senate, of course, under the direction of President Donald Trump, decides to give South Africa an extension to AGOA. Is this an indication that the South African market is as important to American businesses as the American market is to South African businesses?
Oh, good day, Thabo, and to all the Newzroom Afrika viewers. Definitely, I mean, this is something that we expected, as many of us have been emphasizing that it would be hard for the US to ditch South Africa in terms of the AGOA, particularly because we know that South Africa is one of the most industrialized nations in the African context, and as well as in terms of the value that South Africa brings into the US in terms of its exports, particularly if you look at manufacturing capabilities as well as within the automotive space. Again, if we also look at key areas such as the country's heavily financialized sector, of which is able to produce, again, some of the leading innovations. And these are the core things that the US also needs from South Africa, and as well as, again, the ports that we have, of which, again, are the gateway to the African continent.
A short-term renewal vis-a-vis a multi-year extension. An indication maybe that President Trump still wants to use this as a lever to force South Africa's foreign policy.
It's definitely going to be a key lever because, as we know, it has been renewed for 1 year. And again, when the deliberations happen towards the end of this particular year, we know this is the one card that the US is roughly going to use against South Africa to say, we've been giving you preferential access to the US market. Now, again, we want to see some changes in your foreign policy, of which, again, should be quite interesting. And as we've seen over the last couple of months, that there seems to be that particular tension that is not going away. And with recently, against South Africa, with the expulsion of the Israel ambassador, again, that on its own also seems, again, to suggest that there's going to be a long road ahead in terms of the animosity between South Africa and the US.
So when we drill down to the nitty-gritties, I mean, who's going to really benefit here? Which sectors and how will they benefit?
Well, it's been mainly the automotive sector and as well as the agricultural produce in the country, because we know, again, we tend to export majority of our cars to the US and as well as within Europe. And again, if you look at some of the commotion that we were seeing when AGOA was likely not to be renewed, we saw that majority of those were, particularly within the citrus industry, were complaining that they are bound to lose out. And as well as we remember when Trump was imposing tariffs on South Africa, that on its own was also causing a lot of uncertainties. But South Africa is going to win again, because we know that if you look at the bulk of the AGOA, again, South Africa contributes roughly 25 to 30%, of which again goes to the mark of around 70 billion at the end of the day.
Senator Greer saying, well, the program is going to change to align with the America First policy of President Donald Trump. Should South Africans be worried about that? Are we likely going to see dumping of American products, or South Africa being forced to particularly purchase a particular brand of American product?
Well, that has been the case. We know that over the years they've been dumping their chicken in the country, and that on its own, again, has also killed some of our industries if you look at the poultry sector. And again, it should be quite interesting to see as to what more products the US will want to dump to South Africa. But then again, I think the other key component that we need to be aware of is we have the likes of Ford Motors here in South Africa, and again, that is a US brand. So they will try their best not to upset some of the investors that are already in the country. And And the US, again, particularly knows that Africa, or particularly South Africa, is the gateway to the African continent. So they need to also tread carefully at the same time.
How should South Africa use this? Many have been pushing South Africa to say, well, you need to diversify, begin to look elsewhere. Yes, still push for AGOA, but have alternatives. So how does South Africa use this extension?
Well, definitely, I think South Africa should use this as a particular umbrella to say we do have one additional year of which we're going to export our products to the US. But while we are also looking for alternative markets, particularly within the Middle East, because we know that South Africa is friendly nations that have been working with it over the last decades or so, and as well as within some parts of Asia. But I think as it is also, again, the idea is, so how does South Africa also diversify some of the products that it sends to the US? Again, moving away from the automotive industry, because we know it is facing stiff competition from the Chinese cars. And that on its own, again, is likely to also play an important role as to what are some of the sanctions or tariffs that the US is likely to say, please put particular tariffs against Chinese cars in your country so that they can stop competing with our products that are coming from the US. So it should be quite interesting indeed as we go forward.
Professor of Political Economy at the University of Johannesburg, Isaac Khambule, I appreciate your time and thank you for your intervention this afternoon. Well,